You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
You place a finger in the hole and wiggle it about.
Hey there, and welcome to the show. This is most definitely not our fifth take at trying to start this episode.
I can tell, too, because you're like, hello, welcome to the show, okay? For the fifth time.
We're here to talk about a couple of games that we found out about recently, and we were both super excited to give them a try because they're both right within the realm of series that we are so familiar with.
This was on the script, something on our radar. Moving on to the names of them. Go.
Yes, you got it. It Takes Two to Tangle, which is kind of like a King's Quest 8.5. We've got Space Quest 5, but with voices. Ooh. And we've got King's Quest 6, but in AGI, somewhat similar to Gold Rush. I had to compare it to Gold Rush, or else Paul would have made me do this over again.
Yeah, that's fair. That was the reason we did. Yeah, that was 2 of the 5 outtakes for sure.
So first off, though, we're going to talk about It Takes Two to Tangle. That's done by somebody online named Akril, and they released the game as a novelization back in 2006. So obviously somebody that was really passionate about the series and just didn't want the story to end and took it upon themselves to carry it on with characters that we're familiar with, Edgar and Rosella and Cosima. And anyways, about 4.5 years ago, they started planning it out and laying everything out. And now we actually have a real game to play. And you were saying, Paul, we didn't complete any of these games. We gave them a really good go to get the idea of them. But apparently It Takes Two to Tangle is not that short, hey?
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that Canadian Passover you just gave me there. Man, love that.
Pass the puck.
It Takes Two to Tangle is looking at Decaf Jedi's playthrough of it, which I recommend. It was a lot of fun. Is about, I think, about 9 hours, something like that. If you were to, So it's not a passing fancy, Anna. It's a full on, incredibly immersive game. Was a really good story with a really impressive recap of the entire King's Quest series before it. And I don't know if I'm supposed to take over there. Yeah, go ahead.
No, the recap helped me because, I've never looked at the series as a cohesive mass before. So it was really the first time that I had a rundown of everything that had happened up until this point. And it was it was memory, but it was also like a connecting of that's why I did that. Oh, that makes a lot of sense now. And it was so damn satisfying and long. I mean, if you include the recap and you include the intro, you have about 20 minutes of entertainment before the game even starts.
Right, exactly. It is that comprehensive. It's precision on a level I could only dream of, honestly. And it's incredibly, it's the immersion in the story is really impressive. Like the storytelling alone. So basically I played about an hour of the game, and then, I had a little bit of time to kill before this episode, so I put on Decaf Jedi's stream of it just so it could, kind of be running in the background in case there's anything to pick up on and mention here and now. And it was so easy to get lost into. It was so well done. It was so polished. And Acro's been, a benefit to the community for a long time. If that's familiar to those listening, Acro's worked with Decaf Jedi and with Space Quest Historian and has a couple other games on Adventure Game Studio. And you did a lot of really good things for Space Quest. I think it was Acro's website that I got a bunch of the old Roger Wilco blonde mods for Space Quest 1 and 2. And anyway, just a benefit to the community. So this is, somebody who has a tremendous amount of love. What is my point? I'm asking myself right now. Where am I going with this thought? Don't know. But the game is super fun. Here's a fun little thing about the game. You get to start off as Cosima, which I think is super cool.
If you want to.
Oh, that's a choice?
You do. You get a choice. You can either, you start off as the both of them, but you end up in the forest. And then it's kind of funny to me because you go to Edgar and you're like, this may seem strange, but I need your help. But it's like you both appeared in this random land together. Yeah. And he's like, oh, really? You need my help? And she's like, well, yeah, it turns out I kind of do. But yeah, and then it gives you an option. It brings up a menu and it says, do you want to play as Cosima or do you want to play as Edgar? And I chose Cosima because girl, obviously. Edgar takes her one screen over and disappears because I guess he now understands through the necklace that he can come and go at will, but she's not under any kind of a realization of that. So she's stuck in this land at this point and doesn't know where to go.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Duh. Duh to me, not to you. Yeah. No, I picked Cosima too. I don't remember why. I do remember that I gave Edgar so little thought that I forgot that I had chose her over him. It was just like immediately pick Cosima. But it's cool being able to, I don't know, play as I love when adventure games do that, especially I love when sequels do that, when they give you an opportunity to play as somebody from before that you didn't get a chance to.
Me too. Especially like I like all the action with Edgar because yeah, he's just nobody you've ever been. I really liked that, and I think it's cute because like right away, as Cosima, you come across this ghost girl, and then you come across this ghost guy, and you have to kind of solve their problems, and then you find out later in the game that you get this like really cool armband, and you can turn
Mm,
into an animal, which I thought was such a cool concept. So the thing glows, you turn in the animal, but you can't turn back until the armband decides it's time. So you're like, oh, it's really cold. I'm going to use the armband. I'm going to be a wolf. And then it's warm again. Like, for example, as the wolf, there's this cave with sunshine. And I thought you had to stand in the sunshine to warm up to turn back into a human again. Turns out it was a different puzzle altogether. But it really makes you think like in alternative ways. I thought that was really cool.
yeah, yeah, it definitely had some really good ideas, like all throughout the game, as well, all throughout the bit of the game that I played.
Hmm.
Enough to make me want to play more of it for sure. I probably should play King's Quest 7 first before I finish it, but it's I guess all three of these you could say are kind of like gifts to the entire community. Like
Hmm.
they're all an achievement on their own as far as time and care and effort that went into them. Probably especially not to diminish the Space Quest one, but the amount of years. I think both of these were. I mean, the demake was definitely almost 2 decades in the making, and I think
Hmm.
this game is fair to say was more or less a decade, especially if you consider the narrative that came before it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's, I don't know, for lack of a better term, or lack of further elocution, it's no joke. Like this game is just, it's really good. It's not like a, I don't know. It's not just like a hastily thrown together fan project. Like
Mm-mm.
this thing is competent. This game, like the puzzles are really clever. The character animations are gorgeous.
Hmm.
Is there rotoscoping in this game?
It looks like there is, doesn't it? The
Yeah,
movements are so natural.
yeah. There's like
But
Last Express vibes for sure.
yeah, somebody else mentioned that it had some similarities to King's Quest 6 and some of the movements, even though the graphic styling was different. And I know they used some rotoscoping in King's Quest 6.
Oh, that's right. Right.
Hmm.
Oh,
So it is common in the series. Well, common maybe not, but it has been used in the series anyway.
right. Yeah. And so I guess you could, what to expect is the art style is interesting because there's a mix between 3D and like old school cell animation, King's Quest 7 style animation. Um, and the easy distinction there is like the characters and the sprites are hand drawn, um, Disney style, cell style animation, and then the backgrounds are 3D. Does that sound right?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. And I mean, there's a ton of world building in here. You've got Serenia, you've got Ludor, you've got the Sacred Mountain and the chessboard land, and every single one of them has such an atmosphere going around it. And there's always so many puzzles around them. It's just there's so much nostalgia, and it's so much of a nod to the series. It's really you unless you really care, there's no way you can make something like this, and not something that connects so thoroughly to the original stories.
Right, right, and it does the things that you want it to do without. Like I thought I hit a really good note as far as being in that sweet spot, in that kind of pocket of like fan service, but also its own identity. Like the fan service being, I take playing as Cosima or Edgar as a bit of fan service because, like I said, I think it's really cool when you can play as previous characters that you're familiar with, and bonus points for if you didn't get to play as them before. Something really cool about that. But then also being able to see familiar places, like the chess land that you mentioned. I don't know the name of it, but we all know. Um,
Chessboard land is what I call it.
yeah, yeah, the Commonwealth of the chessboard land. It gives you all those elements of like familiarity within the world and callbacks and the right balance, but it also has its own personality, like with the little ghost girl in the beginning that you brought up as
Hmm.
a really good example, because it was like a really punchy little, I don't know, like a nice little spicy dialogue where she was like, my mother was terrible and I wanted to haunt her, but then she had to go and die, so I didn't even get the chance to haunt her. And it was just like,
Hmm.
whoa, damn, that girl, that's a feisty little ghost. She was talking about like wanting to haunt her own mother, but she couldn't because then she had to, like she had to selfishly go and die to, as if to rob her of the opportunity to haunt her. Um,
Hmm.
which is just, I don't know, it was uh, kind of provocative, I guess you could say. Like the
It
writing was like
was.
it was fun and spicy and like, okay, it's got some punch to it. It's got like it's got its own personality. I mean, not its own personality. Like it's not going to feel jarringly separate from a King's Quest game,
Mm-mm.
because it does that wonderfully as well. But just as far as new characters are concerned, really
Hmm.
you could see it in just the name of the game and the titles of the chapters, where
Hmm.
like Acro clearly gets how King's Quest works with "It Takes Two to Tangle," where you take a
Hmm.
well-known phrase and you change out one of the words, making it a little punny, but also that it fits and it's not too out of place. And like, yeah, they clearly get how this land and or how this lore and everything works. So
They do. And it's in the classic Sierra style. You've got that whole essence. You have your iconic point and click interface, and you've got your typical inventory puzzles, and you've got your unique character abilities. I think, although she can turn into an animal, Edgar can like transport around at will with his little necklace. So while Kasim is exploring the land of the Green Isles, which we all love, Edgar is out in the Green Oasis and having his own separate adventure, but being able to come and go as he pleases. So, gosh, it is really a labor of love. As far as I've heard, they've composed the music, they've done the artwork, they've written the story, and I mean, we have to take a minute to acknowledge how beautiful the background music is in this
it
game.
is, yeah. hmm Yeah, I'm glad you said that was. Okay. I didn't take notes, but it's a mental note. All right, it was a mental note to bring up the background music being um exceptional. Like
Mhm.
yeah, it almost, to a degree, it almost has no business being as good as it is because it's quite
It's
cinematic.
true.
Like
So, so good.
and I don't mean that to diminish the game either. It's just
Mm-mm.
it's hard to believe it's part of like a fan game. Like the music is just incredible. Um, I mean, the whole
And
thing doesn't really reek of fan game either.
mm-mm.
Maybe it's aided by the fact that it rather intelligently doesn't use Alexander or Graham or Rosella. The protagonist wise anyway, that you use Casima and Edgar, because it's like it doesn't feel like, I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on what I'm trying to say there. There's something about fan games when you play as the character. It has a, I don't know. It almost has more of a fan fiction vibe than this game gives.
Mhm.
This game gives you more of an extension of the series vibe.
Right. It makes sense. I mean, a lot of times novelizations, even done by the author of the game itself, if you're talking like in the Tex Murphy series, Pandora Directive. I mean, it's within the world, but it's a slightly different story that's in the world. But it just it's feeding from it. And you know what? You're not going to just download this game, click it, and play it. This is in DOSBox. Like you're not just like, oh, here's the icon, let's go.
Right.
Which is also really cool. I mean, it gives you that whole retro throwback. Not that it's a small game. I think it was like almost a 1.2 gigs or something. It wasn't tiny.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely over a gig for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say on it other than I'm going to finish it. And it is like, it's such a testament to the legacy of King's Quest. It shows how strong of a pull games like that had on us back in the day, and how much of a pull is still there to ignite such a passion that here we are in 2024 playing games that continue on the idea. Gosh, that makes my heart feel so warm.
Right. That was the same feeling I got from the beginning of this game, just listening
Mhm.
to the series being recapped. I was like, wow, like this is a proper IP. Like there's you know in the 15 or so years that King's Quest existed for us, like there was a world built here. Like there's memorable moments and characters, and it really gives you the scope of yeah, of the series, I guess you could say, of the IP. I want something more than IP, and I can't think of it, so whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, but anyway, handles it really nicely. And if you guys want to check it out, please do so. It's free. The link is going to be in the thingy, the description,
Mhm.
or our little podcast description. I'll make sure that we link it. It'll send you off to Adventure Game Studio, where you can download it for Windows and possibly Linux.
Right. Yep, get out there and play it. And so here, that was the bread of our King's Quest sandwich. I'm gonna slap a bit of mayo, maybe a bit of butter, and let's put
Ew.
some cheese. Do you not like mayo and butter? Is that not an
I've
American
never
thing?
heard those two things said next to each other before. I don't
Because
think
the
ever.
butter protects the bread from getting things soaked through on one side if there's liquid ingredients, and then the
Ugh,
mayo on the other
man.
side enhances
I
the
hate the way you describe
flavor.
sandwiches. What kind of liquid is in your sandwiches? What are you guys doing up there?
It's the maple syrup. It soaks
Right.
right through the bread. It's super sticky. It's falling through your fingers. Canadians, because you need maple syrup on everything, you need the butter.
Oh my god. All right. Well, I can do syrup and butter. At least that's from. But mayo and butter just hit me weird. Like for all I know, there's butter in mayo, but there's just something about saying them next
There
to each
is
other like that.
not.
There's not. Okay.
I make my mayo, so
Wow. Why? I
yeah.
mean,
Because it's just eggs and oil, man. A little bit of like Dijon mustard if you want some flavor. That is literally all it is.
my God. Well, I know this much. If you mix mustard with mayo, it makes really good artichoke dip. That's
It
my
does.
that's my little.
See, I have artichoke dip. I use butter and lemon.
Okay.
It's so good, like to die for good. My parents and I, we would sit and watch Star Trek The Next Generation or Max Headroom or the 1980s rendition of Beauty and the Beast movie, and we would eat artichokes in lemon butter dip as a family. For real, growing up, that was one of our traditions.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
That one resonates. We used to do artichoke with movies back in the day because it takes a while. It takes a while to
it
eat.
does.
It's like
You're
a
like the only person I've. Is there anybody else out there? Because I have literally never heard anybody go, "Oh yeah, that's a thing our family
yeah.
did." Jesus Christ!
It's a perfect movie
Oh,
food because it
sorry.
takes it takes a long ass time to eat it, especially if you go
Mhm.
pedal by pedal or whatever they're
It
called.
does. That's how you do it. You take the good stuff off the bottoms, and then you go all the way to the middle, and then you got the little guys, and then you remove the choke, and you get the heart, and that's amazing.
Yeah, you're working your way to the heart the whole time, and
Yeah.
it's you've really earned it by the time you get there, and then you get to scrape the little hairy part off with a spoon. It's so
Yes.
satisfying.
So satisfying.
Mhm. Okay, so
Ah,
why? Well, and
mhm.
I'm not moving us on to the games.
No.
Why do you make your own mayonnaise? I don't. Is it like you have a problem with all the other mayos, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna see if you want it done right. I'm gonna have to do it myself, or is
I
it
think
just
it's my parents just raised me making mayonnaise. You take the little hand blender and you just like it takes 2 seconds.
I
It's
doubt that.
super easy, and
I
then
doubt that too.
yeah, because then you can make it with olive oil. No, literally, it emulsifies right in front of your very eyes. In like, you put the blender thing in and you lift it up and go like the hand blender, and it's emulsified, and you put it in the fridge. It's that easy.
All I can think about is having to clean the blender as you're saying that. Like that's
You
my view
don't
on
even have
cooking.
to do that. The hack is you just take hot water and run it over, and then put it in the drawer.
That's
That's the
cleaning.
cleaning
You
hack.
just described cleaning.
Yeah, you can't stick it in the
You got to
dishwasher.
put soap on that, right? Because there's egg.
Yeah.
You can't
No,
see,
you can
but
you
you
can
can't
put
just
it
hot water
into
it.
a you put it into a cup of hot soapy water. I do, and then I
Okay,
go
now
zoop,
there's a
zoop, and I
cup
zip it.
and soap. See what you're doing here? Before it was just you just rinse it with hot water, but now there's a cup involved. We're mixing suds together. It's cleaning.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's cleaning. You can just buy it in a squeezy container, fortunately. So,
Yeah, and you don't even have to refrigerate it until you open it, which is weird and cool.
isn't it weird? Food's
Yeah,
weird. It's
why?
like milk. Milk in so many places. Like I went to Mexico and I was like, "How come all the milk's out?" They're like, "Why would we refrigerate it? It's not open." I'm like, "That's weird."
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird. You're weird. Although a weird thing that Americans do is refrigerate their butter, and that drives me crazy.
We take out the butter out of like the fridge and then use it like and then get the next chunk of butter out of the fridge. But it's probably out for a couple of days before you use it up. Like
Yeah,
I've never
you just get
had a
Amish butter,
problem.
leave that shit on with a cover on top, and you're good.
Yeah,
No
that's
need
all we
to.
do.
There's no need to destroy your toast with cold chunks of icy like butter that just tears
Don't
through the
do it,
bread. It
man.
doesn't.
And ooh, if you ever do have cold butter by accident, if you shred it on the bread on a shredder, it just works really well.
Okay, but please don't make it cold, people.
Don't make it cold. Don't make extra dishes. This is, I'm a foodie, but, Paul may not be quite as much so.
No, I'm a microwave guy.
I am a microwave girl too. I like all of it. I want the Kraft dinner and I want the macaroni and cheese my grandma made me growing up. I want it all.
That's fair, but
Mix the two together.
you'll work for it is the difference. You'll
Yeah,
yeah, you'll put in the effort.
yeah,
I'm like, nah,
I
it's
will.
gotta like if it's more than 3 minutes in the microwave, I'm immediately turned off. I'm like, that's gonna take
Hmm.
too long. I don't know if I got 4 minutes to wait on this dinner.
Hmm.
Um, okay,
That's fair.
all right.
So moving on to Space Quest 5, because we're doing a King's Quest sandwich today, like we said.
Yeah, so yeah, weird liquidy buttery sandwich. So okay, Space Quest 5, the speech mod. I think it came as a surprise to I think everybody, right? It felt like it, or so it felt like. Look, I can only describe my experience, man, and it felt like
Hmm.
it just kind of dropped on us all. And it was made by CDP, nope, CDB Boop, aka well that's the wrong way around. Doesn't matter. It was made by Christian B,
Hmm.
and it is an AI generated voice mod for King's Quest Five.
Right,
And
and an open mod, because he's encouraging other people to go ahead and do extra training and even improve on what they've done.
awesome. Okay.
Hmm.
And for
Hmm.
anybody who cringes as soon as they hear AI, we get it. It's all very threatening. But this is the ideal project for an AI because
Hmm.
you can't. It's not taking money out of a voice actor's pocket because you can't. That's not how this works, right? It's a Sierra property, so nobody nobody lost money by AI doing this. So it's like the perfect. Man, Joshua said this so much better on his YouTube video because I heard him
Hmm.
say it and I was like, I'm going to say that on the show and sound all smart like him, and I blew it. I dropped the ball hard on that. But the point being is like you're not going to hire voice actors to voice act for a Sierra game because like who's going to pay for that. So AI is a really good solution for this, and it was done incredibly well.
Hmm. Yeah, I think where the AI excelled in this game to me was not on like Roger's voice or even sort of some of the more generic voices. It was in the voices that really had a lot of character. You're talking about your Gary Owens. You're talking about the voice of Beatrix. Although it wouldn't call her Beatrice Wankmeister, it was like Beatrice Wonkmeister. It said it. I was like, I didn't think the AI probably didn't want to say the word wank. It was like cadet. It was like
Cat it, yeah.
yeah, cat it. It was but considering like I was telling my dad about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it must be tough because they don't do all the cadences. That the voice isn't going up and down. It's not pausing." So I played him a couple of the Gary Owens clips, and he's like,
It's
"Oh,
insane.
that's actually." He was super surprised.
The first voice you hear in this is Gary Owens because it cuts.
Mhm.
Um, to refresh anyone's memory, bright red room. Rogers exits out of the, I think, simulation thingy, and Gary Owens starts to narrate, and it's unbelievable how good it is. Like it is.
Mhm.
I was just completely blown away. Like the best way to describe it is when after the first few chunks of text went by and Gary Owens read them, I sat there and was like, wait, he didn't narrate this, right? Because
Mhm.
Gary Owens narrates Space Quest 4 in the CD-ROM version, right? But he doesn't do
Mhm.
anything else. And I'm like, wait, like Gary Owens doesn't. He didn't do the same as 4, but like he just because it sounded so authentic. I'm like, this has to be Gary Owens. So I guess space. But I'm like, no, there was no CD version. You couldn't fit that on a floppy. Like it was making me doubt all the logic that I know because it was so good. I'm not overselling it. Like I can tell you all
Mhm.
right now that it's like it's almost creepy how authentically Gary Owens it is. And you'll
Mhm.
you'll go and play it or watch a playthrough or whatever, and you'll be like, holy shit! Like yeah,
Mhm.
it's bang on. Granted, and I've overthought this for several days now. I think Gary Owens has the perfect voice for an AI model to learn
Mhm.
because he delivers every line kind of the same way. In that
Mhm.
very, I almost imitated it, and that would have been embarrassing. But
Mhm.
like the way he delivers lines is very, yeah. I guess even though I've overthought it for several days, I didn't manage to articulate it. Um, there's something
It's
about
very
the
Gary.
prosody in his voice that's just, yeah,
Yes, the lilts, the up and the down, the musicality, the way that he uses his voice as an instrument. Like everything he says is dripping with sarcasm. Everything he says, and somehow it entirely retains that. And it's a bit of a technical feat. Like to put voice acting into an older game like this, it requires a lot of technical expertise. You've got to integrate the voice file seamlessly with the game's engine, and I think that's just not something that's super simple to do. Now, I know he's put about 100 hours of work into generating, selecting, and splicing, 30 hours into the programming with the SCI Companion, and time on the sciprogramming.com. Like, this is not just thrown together. This is somebody who really, and I mean, how many of us didn't? I mean, after playing Space Quest 4, we all kind of expected voices in 5. And I know the various reasons why it couldn't happen, but at the time I didn't. I was just like, what the hell, guys?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, sorry, because I'm still trying to. I still want to articulate this. Gary Owen says every sentence like it's an announcement,
Mm-hmm.
and so like there's something about the way he ends it. Like it's a very predictable um, prosody and cadence in his voice. Anyway, if anything, that sets the bar incredibly high because there are as you it sets the bar too high because it can't maintain that Gary Owens level of perfection that it achieves with the narration. So then when you move on to Roger and stuff, it's pretty darn good. Like there's only a few moments, maybe let's just say like a moment per dialogue that you're just
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, that wasn't, that was a
Mm-hmm.
little AI-ish, but like it's still pretty damn good. Like Roger's like good. If Gary
Mm-hmm.
Owens is like amazing, Roger's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what was it? What's her name? Flo. Flo is also
Flow.
great.
Yeah.
Flo is phenomenal. Like the same level as Gary Owens, just because Flo's voice is very tropey.
Exactly. No, hers is my other favorite, absolute favorite in the game.
It's so good, right?
I want to copy it. I was trying to copy it because it's got that like New York thing going on. I didn't. I almost slept in, but I didn't. But the point is, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's really good because, and again, it's you can see why the AI shines with that too, because it is like a tropey New York waitress from I
Hmm.
guess the 50s,
Hmm.
maybe earlier, whatever. She's really good. What's the Zoidberg looking guy? Drool or Duel?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Droll.
Drool.
I
Drool's
think
Drool's
Droll.
pretty good. Um, like each character definitely has character in it, and a matching one at that.
And
Um,
think about the accessibility for somebody that was never able to hear it or wasn't able to just really wanted to hear the voices in the game and couldn't. All of a sudden, it's a quiet game and there's nothing. Before now, if you really wanted to hear the voice acting, you did have to pick one of those dictators, and it would be just like dead
ugh.
straight awful, right?
Mm.
With no intonations and no nothing. So this, I mean, I know that it hit, like you said, a little bit of backlash in the community. I myself am super happy to have played it. I'm going to finish playing. Everybody in the house here was super impressed with it.
Yeah, speaking of accessibility, so the best thing I can say with this is that I'm gonna play this game with my son on my birthday. So every year
Mhm.
since he was like I think 3, I've made him play a Space Quest game with me on my birthday. It's like it's our little thing. It's my present to me from him. And it's a very sacrificial present, especially considering that's the birthday is Christmas Eve. So this is how he's gonna grow up knowing holidays, basically. But yeah, we always play
Mhm.
a Space Quest game, and this year it was time for Space Quest 5 anyway, because last year we played 4, um, and the year before that 3, and I guess I don't need to explain how chronology works. Um, so yeah, anyway, this year it was gonna be Space Quest 5, but I was probably gonna skip it because I do lose his interest unless it's a talkie game,
Right.
which is I guess fair enough. And it's like a little tiring on me because we've played a few non-talkie games together through the years, and it's I don't know, it can be a little exhausting. Like I because I want him to like the games so much that I have to give every character like all I have,
Mhm.
and it takes a lot out of you, man.
It
Um,
does.
so yeah, I lose his interest unless it's a talkie game or unless I'm reading it and giving it my all. So I was gonna skip Space Quest 5 and go to Space Quest 6 for the talkie, but now I don't have to. And why that's even better to me is because Space Quest is my favorite series, and 5 is my favorite game in the series. I love Space Quest 5 the most. 3 is like a really close second. Some days I might say that one's the favorite, but I think 5 is I think the funniest adventure game ever made. Like it just
Mhm.
man,
It's amazing.
it's so
I
funny.
laughed my without the voices, without anything else playing it. It was just, and I mean, everything that came in the box just validified the fact that it was going to be like
Yes.
you open up that box, you see those goodies inside, and you know you're in for a good time.
Well, it does have the best feeling of all time too. The
Hmm.
the National Enquirer style
Hmm.
magazine, intergalactic, whatever. Um, There's just it's got such a subtle, constant. I think maybe what it is, because I was thinking about it as I played a good hour. Like I played more of it than I intended to because I love the
Me
game
too.
so much. But like he asked Jewel, he's like, "So Jewel, Jewel, whatever." He's like, "Tell me about yourself," and it's just like my personal life is none of your business. And it's
Mhm.
just this irreverent, like immediate, just shut down. Like you never quite see it coming. God, I just love that game so much. But anyway, the AI is really good. Like I was worried it was gonna be not passable. That's what I'm trying to say. It's passable. It's
Mhm.
totally passable. Like I
Yeah.
can play it with Strum in a month from now, and
Mhm.
he'll probably appreciate it even more because his generation is like growing up on like brain rot bullshit with
Yeah.
so much AI voice.
Yeah.
They like weaponized AI voices and they like it.
Mhm.
And they
They
like it
do.
like the worse it is. They like it. I mean, same to go with like I don't know for anybody listening with kids. Like you probably all know like Baldi's Basics. Shit is hard to look at, but they
Mhm.
really appreciate this like degenerative air quotes art and just horrible brain rot crap like
Mhm.
Skibidi Toilet and all that. That it's all the worst. So anyway, even if it wasn't good AI, which it is, like it would still pass with him. I think he'll appreciate it more for the voices. Strangely enough.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm super stoked to play this with him.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, you can still find it. It's getting harder to find out there, but you can still find it out there on GitHub. So,
Oh, quick tips for installation. So I'll link the GitHub in the description. You're gonna go there and download an exe and a audio file. What you'll do is here, I won't give you guys the instructions because you'll be able to read them there. And I doubt, you know, if it was me, I wouldn't remember what dude was saying right now on the podcast. Dude being me is a weird like fifth person
yeah, dude.
perspective. But two quick tips. One, when you there's going to be an exe and an audio file. Don't put the audio file in until you run the exe because
Hmm.
I might be tripping, but I'm pretty damn sure that all like three times the exe erased my audio file, and I because I kept having to re-download it for some reason, and it's half a gigabyte. My internet sucks, so that was annoying.
Yeah.
So don't put the audio file in until you run the exe, and then the other thing is before you run the exe, make sure you've configured the game to the audio that you want. So
Hmm.
the instructions will tell you for sound, because granted, sound and audio, let's say sound and music. So the sound has to be Audio Blaster or Odd Blast Driver. Um, and then the music, you want to do, well, do whatever you want. But if you want MT32 because you have MUNT, or if you want just the Sound Blaster or even the PC speaker, which I don't recommend because it's like a little bit louder than the voices,
Hmm.
do that before you run the EXE because and I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure something happens after the patcher, the EXE, that doesn't it wasn't letting me then assign it to MT32 without giving me an error in the game. So
Paul made me a whole video that was almost 8 minutes long to figure this out. So, just so you know, he's not trying to be placating to you. It is actually a little bit tricky to get going because it's a mod, right? You're modding the game. You're not like, I'm going to download this. It's like you have to have the game and then you need to mod the game.
right, exactly. And I will say too, a lot of the video I sent to Anna was because I was insisting upon her that she play it with MT32 support.
You
So
did. And you also did a recap halfway through, which was kind of adorable.
right, it was so redundant. I'm like, I think I called myself out. I'm like, why am I doing a recap? You can just rewind the video.
Oh well,
So
halfway through now, gonna keep going. It was the funniest thing, actually. That video should be available for everybody.
yeah, so everybody check it out. The other last note to Nerdwise is it has to be run in DOSBox because
Yeah.
You know, Scum will crash it. So anyway, yeah, definitely check it
Yeah.
out. I'll put links in
And
the
not
thingy
Mac
below.
yet either. I've heard there's some troubles with Mac on
Well,
that. And with the Takes Two to Tangle, I think was having a bit of trouble with Mac
that's the
ports.
Mac. Yeah, that's the Mac port one.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's the
because
one.
DOSBox runs in Mac, so we can
Good, okay.
basically Chad and I can run it no problem. Nobody else
Yeah, you
cares.
two are fine. So yeah, get out there and play it, and just ignore whatever it is in you that tells you AI is not a great thing for this. Because I think I am glad that this has happened, and you know what, there is potential for community voiced versions. Space Quest Historian had a few things in the works, so keep an eye out for other things coming out in the future. We're not done with Space Quest 5 yet.
I mean, God, it's so damn impressive. Even I would love a community voice one, especially because we
Hmm.
both showed interest in being a character in it, and because of
Hmm.
how good One Short Eyes Longbow video was, it really showed that a community coming together can do a pretty damn good job. Like it was,
Hmm.
as Short Eyes said himself about that video, like the voice acting in that, um, was at least as good as the Sierra voice acting in the 90s, as like the in-office,
Well,
voice
because it
acting.
was family members. Bring your daughter, bring your husband.
Right.
We need another voice. Like, okay, crew, we're going to give them sandwiches. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And there was, there's a few weaker links, a few strong points, but it was like for the most part, it was pretty damn good. Point being though is that if Trolls is able to go forward with the community project, I would probably still nudge towards using the Gary Owens model because it's
Mhm.
fucking perfect. It's
It's so good.
absolutely perfect. Like
It excels.
I mean I was clicking on descriptive things. There's so many funny lines in that game. I was trying to fault it and I just couldn't. Like, and
Mm-mm.
it's pretty easy to fault every other voice. You could find one
Mhm.
little cadet instead of cadet. Like you could find
Mhm.
something with every voice, but with the Owens model,
Dude,
and
so
again,
good.
there's a lot of Owens out there, so I'm sure it was trained extensively. Blah blah blah. It had a lot of advantages to learning Gary Owens as opposed to the other voices. But anyway, it's perfect.
And a fan of the game did take the Gary Owens files and give it even more data, like subset data to work off of. And I saw a little video that he clipped of it, and it was like even that much better. So this is the beginning, guys. There is so much more potential.
Yeah, and that's really cool. I didn't know that. It would almost
Mhm.
be interesting if somebody could make a cut that is just the narration like Space Quest 4.
Mhm.
Just because the Gary Owens part is perfect, and Space Quest 4 only has the Gary Owens um, narration. I hesitate there because I think that's correct. Um,
Mhm.
anyway, that might
Yeah.
be a cool even a cool like on off tab in the game's menu if you could like leave narration on and turn everything else off. Not that the rest is bad, but it's just the Gary Owens is so good it's on a different level I
Mhm.
think than the rest.
The point is, don't listen to Gary Owens. You should mess with it.
Nice, very good.
Thank you. So yeah, the next game we're talking about was one that, gosh, it was on my radar for a long
Yeah.
time. I was really excited about this. The creator, Brandon Curry, he took about 18 years. I think he started this project back in 2006, and he made it for anybody who just loves King's Quest 6, but also loves the AGI game engine. Hands up over here. It was entirely assembled and compiled using the AGI Studio. Game resources were created and edited in WinAGI GDS. Some of the graphics and sounds were extracted directly and borrowed from copyright Sierra Online games. So you'll hear some similar sounds when they're opening doors to the shops and things like that. Some of the songs were a little bit different too. Like the Nightingale sounded entirely different, but then the music for the dwarves coming up was pretty much the same. So yeah, it was it's pretty wild, man. You've got 16 colors, you've got a typing interface, but it was a modified typing interface. I could see that there was these little things that the Brandon had done to make the game more accessible, even for people that aren't entirely used to parser games. Like, for example, when you're doing an interaction with a ferryman or with the shopkeeper, it puts up a little menu and you get to just click on what you're looking to do. Um, when you're interacting with the dwarves and you have to, give them the flower to smell, for example, in that it does take a little bit of the stress out of it. Like usually you're trying to rush to grab an item from your inventory so that he can smell the flower while it's doing that little trill. And in this case, it's like it names them. It actually gives you names for the dwarves, and then you've got the time to go into your inventory and highlight what you need to get to bring it out. So it's not just a reimagining in the style of AGI. There's a little bit of creativity in connecting modern and what would you call not modern, the opposite of modern, and putting them both together.
Yeah. I'm glad you pointed all that stuff out. That sounds like somebody who took notes, not just
So
mentally.
I have the most notes on this one, starting with the box under the board in the very first scene on the beach. Made me laugh because you move the board and there's supposed to be like this tiny little box hiding underneath the board. And you move the box and it's like there's a treasure chest. I'm like, this game is going to be fun.
Yeah, it puts you right into the AGI mood again, where it's like I don't see the thing.
But you have to, like, for example, when you see something in the box or you see something on the ground, you can't just type take coin or take ring. You have to like move a cursor arrow up and over to click on it with the cursor arrow, but it's all just using the keyboard. There's no mouse control. So a little bit of a different style. You didn't really encounter that in previous games.
Right, right. Was that
And
was that mandatory though?
yes,
Okay. So I
it
played this one
was.
the farthest for the listeners. I played this one like immediately when it came out, which was only I don't know what 2 months ago, something like that. Maybe 1 month. It was not that long ago, but regardless, I don't remember having to do that already.
Did you find the guidebook to the Green Isles? Was that there specifically for this version, or am I completely forgetting that it existed before? Because it did a whole guidebook about all of the different islands in the Green Isles, and then it gave you legends and myths, and then at the end it just randomly said the name Derek Carl Avagin, and I'm guessing that he did that specifically for the game, like because it was just lying there out in the on the ground outside of the castle, a giant blue book.
Right. What's the guidebook? It was a in-game version of the Feely that came with King's Quest 6.
That's why. Okay, that makes so much sense because I'm like, it's familiar, but I don't remember ever encountering it in game before.
Yeah. And I'm a little flimsy. Like I said that like a dead fact, and I just want to reel that back a little bit in case I'm wrong, because I'm not a resident like King's Quest historian here or whatever. But like I'm pretty sure,
Mhm.
because I remember that the guidebook to the Isles is um
It's beautiful.
a really impressive, yeah, not manual,
Guidebook?
supplement, yeah, right, guidebook. Thank you. It's almost like it was hiding in the name. Um, but yeah, it's one of those. King's Quest was always good at that, really expanding the world and expanding the lore in the guidebooks. Like you got more out of the experience for those books than not.
Mhm.
And that's something that is lost today too, because even though they come in like PDF form on
Mhm.
GOG or Steam, it's like I think most of us. I mean, speak for myself. I don't think to like, I don't know, open up the PDFs and read them. There's just something about like the books in your face while you were installing it back in the day that was this sweet spot. But
Mhm.
anyway, what you're describing sounds like the same guidebook, and they probably just put it in game. And I'm glad they did, because it does enhance the gameplay. Like
It
it
does.
does enhance the
Depth.
world building. There you go. Yeah.
It does for sure. Now the funny thing is, I mean, the game usually lets you direct. You want to open the door, close the door, things like that. But occasionally it kind of takes the autonomy out of your hands. Like, for example, in the bookstore, when you walk near the poetry shelf, he automatically grabs a book. And at
Mhm.
the ferryman, when you walk near there, he automatically knocks on the door. But other parts of it, it lets you do it yourself. So I wasn't always sure when I was going to be able to do it or not, but it does take a lot of the stress out of figuring out what to do. Did you catch some of the names of the dwarves? They were great. You've got Bill Batter and Trilly Dilly and Fool Grump Frump. Like, these names are great.
I'm glad you noted them down for us. How much of this did you end up playing? Because this was like Space Quest, where I played more than I expected to. I
Mhm.
didn't achieve anything. I probably I probably subconsciously avoided puzzles, knowing like
Mhm.
vaguely knowing where they lie in the game. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
went farther than I thought because I did the Isle of Wonder, and then I got the cabbage. I cooled down the water. I got the lamp. I did the dangling participle. Pretty much, I just got up to the point where you had to start climbing up to the cliffs of logic. Everything that I can do up until that point was how far I got. So
right.
yeah, and then I'm going to continue playing this one because I've really been enjoying it. It's pretty. I like less. Less is more, if you ask me. I mean, here's the girl who was like, "What? Point and click? Who needs that? Like, you need to have your hand held through everything? Well, here, let me spoon feed you your breakfast now," which is what my opinion was on that stuff. So I'm
Larry
just like, bring back the goodness.
Larry Five really fucked you up with that.
Oh
Um,
my god, that was the one, man. I swear.
did you see the Gold Rush guy? I might be wrong, but I think the guy selling the genie lamps is from Gold Rush. The
Mhm.
prospector from Gold Rush.
I didn't even make that connection. That's so cool.
Another fun little familiar faces lying around. Another thing worth mentioning too with this game is there's this short and long path, which is
Mhm.
impressive, because that would have been a hell of a temptation, I would imagine.
Mhm.
I can almost imagine at some point Brandon possibly stopped to consider that. Like, do I really, do I really need to do both paths here? Because that's development wise, like that's months
Mhm.
that you could shave if you decided to just that everybody would have been happy enough with just getting the long path, let's say.
Mhm.
But there's both, and that's pretty darn cool. And I would say too that Brendan does a playthrough of this game on his YouTube channel, which I'll link in the description as well. His YouTube channel is Corva Chauve-souris.
Right.
It's very
And
French
just
sounding.
copy it just like that. Control C, Control P from what Paul just said.
Yes,
You'll find it no problem.
something
Sounds,
very, yeah.
yeah.
Pretty sure I nailed it. Um, and anyway, it's really infectiously fun listening to him play this game because he was just so excited, and I could almost relate and imagine to the feeling that he had, where it's like the first time that you get to sit back and just play the thing, like
Hmm.
properly, like experience it, not just like. And I would almost need to be on a stream or on a YouTube thing to do that, because like if I'm left alone, I will stop and fix little things or take little notes. And you could tell he was just committed to doing the playthrough of his own thing, and he was so excited about it and had such a, I don't know, just such a good vibe coming from him. The his energy was really cool. Like it was the perfect energy to watch a playthrough with. Like
Hmm.
and considering he was the creator of it, I'm almost tempted to watch more of the playthrough than to play it, in a strange
Hmm.
twist, because I really almost never prefer playthroughs. But I'm kind of curious what little bits that he might of information he might offer as he's playing, just little director's
Which is
commentaries and
why
stuff
we're
like that.
waiting for yours, for your game,
Yeah, right now
Paul.
we're gonna do it one day.
But I mean, really, it would just be cool to have you playing the game on YouTube and, just saying shit. People like it when you say shit at them. I mean, I guess they do. You're here, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's miraculously fair. Um, yeah. Oh, the other thing. Sorry, well, no, with Brandon's playthroughs, he really commits to the voices, which is really fun.
Hmm.
And and
Hmm.
and you could tell he spent years writing dialogue for these characters, because he's just like,
Hmm.
he knows exactly he knows exactly where he's going with it. It's really fun. So yeah, check it
Hmm.
out. We'll link all the things. We're gonna link like the downloads for the mod, for Space Quest, for Aquil's game. We'll link Brandon's game and Brandon's YouTube channel. Um, is there
Yeah,
anything
because
else?
you guys don't know that we're doing this about your games, but hopefully, if and when you hear it, it'll be neat hearing another perspective. I always want to hear more about fan games and what's out in the community, and I'm hoping that there's a lot of other people that are going to continue to talk about this stuff, because I think this is great stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and Anna does. She often pitches a fan game episode. Like, you always want to do fan
I've
game
done this a
episodes.
few times.
Yeah, and it always feels a little daunting to me, because I'm like, well, but then we have to play like a bunch of them. But this episode has showed us that maybe we can just get a sample of them,
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
minimum, and run through them. I mean, these, we had
Hmm.
the excuse of them being all brand new, so it's like
Yeah,
we get away with it, whereas a lot of the other ones have been out forever. But whatever,
yeah,
we
no
had,
excuses.
yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Play the games, check them, click the links, and if you don't feel like playing it yourself, do what Paul also suggested, and take a check out of the videos and see what else is out there and other people have been playing them, because this is a great community, and I just love to see the continued enthusiasm for the games that I love out there today. It's so damn validating, isn't it, Paul, to be like, yeah, we were right. This was good stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Because my friends are just like, you're crazy. What, you sitting there playing a game alone? You making some lady walk across the thing and they don't understand what you say? Why are you doing this? Right? That's what my friends were like anyway. They're just like, you and your weirdo games. I'm like, oh, look at me now, kids. Look at me now. So, yeah, anything else you want to say before I go on to talk about our lovely Patreoners?
Absolutely not. No.
Lovely, perfect. So, yeah, thank you very much for being a part of the Patreon community. We always like to try to get you guys an episode a little bit early, and that you can enjoy it a little bit before everybody else, and we really appreciate that. We've got Gareth, who always great friend in the True Believer tier. We've got Mick. Michael Council, Brian Manown, Jay Holmes, Jeffrey Couch, Mark Fillion, Tim Ellis, all of you really appreciate it, and everybody else in every other tier. Seeing your faces there just make me so happy. I see my face because I'm a contributor to the podcast. I see your face, Paul,
Huh?
because you're a contributor. Thank you for being a show supporter. For how long have you been a show supporter? A long time. So I appreciate you.
That's how I know the notifications are working. Oh, and go check out Chinatown Detective Agency. That's Mark Fillion's
Mhm.
beautiful game. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely go do that. And maybe if you want to follow up on anything we've talked about here, after you're done checking out what everybody else in the adventure game hotspot is doing, say hi to us. We're on Twitter at CGG Podcast or the Phantom Fellows. By the way, the Phantom Fellows, I know y'all have been listening to the show, but it is out. You can buy it and you can play it, and it is great fun, and we'd really appreciate it if you did buy it or play it or check it out, to throw a few positive words about it out there on Steam or GOG or just anywhere that that you can just say, hey, this is a game, I played it. We'd really appreciate it. It always helps boost visibility and sales, because often they're looking for X amount of reviews to rate things in specific ways. So
It's also
so
good
that
for
would
my
be-
self-esteem. So
that too. I mean, Paul, solo dev, long time, making this game, a full-time father, a full-time teacher of his child, because all of these, it's just, there's a lot going into this, and the game is all passion and heart, and there's just so much more to it. If you're curious, we did an episode about it a while ago. We just talked about the making of the Phantom Fellows, and you can kind of get the gist. Otherwise, mail at cggpodcast.com. You can send us an email. We got some lovely emails this week again that we are definitely contemplating on responding to. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the emails and the ideas. Paul and I read them over together, and it's just such a great time. How much heart and passion goes into some of these messages to us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Find us on Facebook. We're a page, we're a group. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. That's it.
don't do murder. Love good, dusty bread.
Mm-hmm.
Sourdough's got that white dust stuff on the outside.
Flour.
Right. Right.
They're flappy meat sandwiches.
Very flappy, yes. Yes, they've got vaginal sandwiches.